Good morning, everyone. I decided to present this presentation in the form of a video because I wanted you to be able to go back and watch it again in your own time. I ask that you do that. Go and watch it again, write down any questions you have, any thoughts you have, and please send those to me. If we are going to be successful in implementing this approach into the way that our students learn, then it is vital that we have a shared understanding of the philosophy behind this approach. As it says, it's an alternative approach to learning. This might be very different to what you're used to and to what our students are used to. So, again, it's really important that we have that shared understanding. I'm a firm believer in starting with why. So let's look at why. Do I believe this approach is more effective? Research shows that learning is more effective when the boundaries between subjects are less defined. For example, English, science, learning, inquiry, and reading. When learning is delivered via clearly defined subject areas, those experiences are often disconnected from each other and from the real world. So this is where you stop your English lesson to start your science lesson, and you stop your science lesson to start your learning inquiry lessons. And often those subjects are, you know, they're not connected. Um, we want to create learning experiences that are meaningful, uninterrupted, and aim to prepare our students for the 21st century. I'm sure you'll agree with me that that's got to be our number one aim, is how do we prepare our students to navigate the 21st century? At its core, this is what an integrated approach is all about. How is this different from a traditional approach? This approach is based on a project-based learning philosophy where learning experiences have meaning and the student is placed at the heart of the learning journey. In a more traditional approach, each learning experience or lesson is based on one predetermined national curriculum objective. More often than not, students work for 1 hour to achieve one objective. So an example might be to use varied sentence starters. So this is where you go to Classroom Monitor, you pick an objective, and that objective becomes your learning objective. The national curriculum objective is the star of the show. It is the main objective. Is that really helping our students engage with and understand the world they live in? I would argue no, but I'm open to your opinions. In an integrated approach, the objective of the learning experience aims to help the learner to better understand the world around them. For example, to explore the human impact on rainforest. So it's a real world connection, and it's really something that I think the students can get excited about. Here, the national curriculum objectives are tools, skills, and strategies to help students engage with the content and to achieve the objective of understanding the world they live in. So the curriculum is still really important, but the focus is different. The focus kind of shifts from it being the star of the show to these are just tools and skills that we use to help us understand the world. During an average integrated curriculum learning experience, students may be exposed to or use a variety of national curriculum objectives. So let's have a look at what this might look like. So this is the kind of top bit, if you like, of a plan. So you've got your learning objective, and as you can see, it's a real world connected learning objective, if you like. And then underneath there, so by the end of the learning experience, and that's just success criteria so that you know what you want your students to achieve by the end of the lesson, and so that they're aware of what they want to achieve. When it comes to competencies, I find that with this approach, these competencies really become an authentic part of the learning process. It's not a struggle to think about, oh, how can I add creative thinker to this process? And it's not just something we refer to at the beginning of a flip chart, and we don't really refer to it throughout the lesson. But if we look here at the potential objectives, and so these are really the skills and the tools that the students will use during this lesson to help them achieve the learning objective. So you can see in this particular lesson, there's 8 potential objectives that you can either teach, assess, or find evidence for. And then on the other side, you've got the purpose of the learning experience. And again, it's just for you and perhaps for the students too, to kind of have an overview of what it is they are trying to achieve. Okay, let's look at the benefits. We know that students are more engaged when they see a purpose in what they are doing. A key feature of this approach is based on meaningful learning experiences that are truly connected to the real world. While applying a more traditional approach, lessons can be disconnected from the real world with little meaning other than trying to teach an objective from the national curriculum. When following a traditional approach, it can be a struggle to get through the curriculum, as each lesson focuses on teaching one objective at a time. The academic year is just not long enough. I think we can all connect with this point. Sometimes it can be a struggle to get through the curriculum. Now, this may still be the case when it comes to maths, because math is kind of separate from this and unique standalone maths lessons. However, every other objective we can cover multiple times during the year. Okay, during an integrated approach, students organically use multiple objectives while navigating their way through the learning experiences while trying to understand the world around them. I'm hoping you can see that there are many benefits to using this approach. So what is my role as a teacher when applying this approach? In a traditional approach, you are the custodian of knowledge. Your aim is to pass your knowledge on to your students. So the belief here is the students are empty vessels, if you like, and it's our job to kind of just fill them up with the knowledge. However, in this approach, your role is to facilitate your students through the learning process. And I'll show you how we do that. Again, your role is to guide them to make meaningful connections with the content and with each other. Like I said, I'll give you some more information on how we might do this. It is your responsibility to identify opportunities to teach and assess a variety of national curriculum objectives in real time while your students are engaging in the learning process. You therefore need to be very familiar with the curriculum in order to identify potential learning opportunities. So what does that mean? Let's quickly look at those two last bullet points. So it is your responsibility to identify opportunities to teach and assess a variety of learning objectives. So we've already seen in this lesson, there's 8 potential objectives that you can either teach or assess. Now, when we plan, we'll identify those potential objectives. However, it's not limited to these objectives. It may be that the students show you more objectives. So this last bullet point, you therefore need to be very familiar with the curriculum. You have to be able to identify other objectives in real time so that you can respond to it and support the students in achieving or learning about that particular objective. Right, how do I get my students to become active participants? So when applying this approach, the focus really does shift from the teacher to the students. And again, that is something that as a school, we are working towards. How do we shift that focus from teaching to learning? Students learn best when they are engaged in the learning process. As teachers, we want our students to A, engage with each other, B, engage with ideas, and C, engage with taking action. So A, the engage with others, that's collaboration. How do we get our students to collaborate? And this might be slightly more challenging with COVID around. However, we still want to get our students to engage with each other. The engaging with ideas, that's more on an individual basis, if you like, is how do we get our students to engage with the ideas? And then finally, how do we engage with taking action? Lucky for us, there's a whole bunch of new routines that have come out recently. And these routines specifically focus on one of these levels of engagement. So you've got a bunch of routines to help students engage with each other, and you've got a bunch of routines for the other levels of engagement too. all learning experiences are built on the foundation of one of these routines. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. I'm in the process of creating these, I call them cheat sheets. I don't know if that's the right term. So this is one thinking routine. It's called, as you can see, it's called Give One, Get One. The bullets, that's just an overview of what the routine looks like. So you can just look at the overview and then you know what the students will be doing. And then you've got the purpose. It's really important that you and the students understand what the purpose might be for each of these thinking routines. And they need to know, you need to share with them why are they doing this routine. And then, as you can see, very detailed steps of how to implement this routine. Okay, let's quickly look at a cross-curricular approach versus an integrated approach. I think the cross-curricular approach was perhaps the natural next step in the evolution of learning, whereas perhaps integrated is then the next step after cross-curricular. Let's quickly go through what I think. This is my interpretation of the two. So a cross-curricular approach aims to connect different subject areas with each other. This approach is still based on different subjects. The learning process is still disrupted to move from one subject to another. So this is where, we try to connect, but perhaps a novel with the topic, or some kind of connection where you are still working within the boundaries of a particular subject, and you are still moving from subject to subject, but you are trying to make these links between what the kids are learning. Although this approach is more effective and can lead to better learning, those connections are often tedious and weak. Not always. Sometimes it works really well, but they can often be tedious and weak. So in this approach, the aim is to fully integrate the skills of the objectives of the different subject areas to understand the world. So what I mean by that is we look at the objectives of the writing curriculum and how can we get the kids to use those objectives in an authentic way to support them through the learning process. And similarly with reading and social sciences and science and all of those objectives, how can we blend those lessons into the learning experiences to make it more, I'm going to use the word authentic again because that's what I think it does. It makes the learning more authentic. Plus, with this approach, there's no subjects, which means the learning never stops. And, there are no forced links. Okay, just a final thought before I share with you a full plan. So, as teachers, our job is not to teach the British national curriculum. Our job is to prepare our students for the 21st century. The national curriculum is simply the vessel that we use to achieve that. Now, is this something that you agree with? Yes, if you do agree with it, what makes you say that? If you don't agree with it, what makes you say that? It's just kind of a final thought to kind of wrap your head around what I think the philosophy of this approach is.